My brothers and sisters, today I came to tell you not how to chase money, but how to shift your mindset. Because wealth doesn't start in your bank account, it starts in your head. You don't have to wait to have money to think like a millionaire. You've got to start thinking like one before the money shows up. You see, millionaires don't just think different, they believe different. They believe in possibility when others see limitation. They hear a no and turn it into opportunity. They take risks, they walk by faith, and they see obstacles as classrooms, not prisons. It's not about the stuff, it's about the stewardship. Can you manage what you have now? Can you be faithful over a little so that you can be ruler over much? That's the principle. Millionaire thinking is strategic, not emotional. It's discipline, not impulsive. It sows seeds in the spirit of expectation, not desperation. You've got to elevate your vision. If all you see is survival, you'll never step into abundance. If all you think about is bills, you'll never build. But when you shift your mind, you shift your money. You shift your territory. So stop praying for a raise if you won't raise your mindset. Stop asking for overflow when you're still thinking in lack. Millionaire thinking is not about waiting. It's about working, serving, planning, and believing. You were never meant to live paycheck to paycheck. You were created with the power to produce, to create, to influence, and to transform. The mind is a magnet, so what are you drawing toward yourself? Think like a millionaire, move like a millionaire, steward like a millionaire. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you already were one, long before the money ever showed up. Let me tell you something today that might just shake you, challenge you, maybe even offend your comfort zone. Wealth does not begin in your bank account. It begins in your mind. Before you ever see a dollar sign, before you ever get a deposit, before the promotion, before the business opens, before the check clears, wealth has already taken root in the garden of your thoughts. Because if you don't think rich, you'll never live rich. You may touch money, but you won't know how to multiply it. You might come into opportunity, but you'll sabotage it with a poor man's mindset. You see, we've been trained to believe that money is what makes you wealthy. But I came to break that lie today. You can have money and still be broke in your mind. You can drive a Bentley and still carry a poverty spirit. You can live in a mansion and still think like a man trapped in survival. Why? Because wealth is not first about paper. It's about perspective. It's about how you think, how you see the world, how you handle what you've been given. When you think like a millionaire, you start moving different. You don't chase money. You create value. You don't look for handouts. You look for solutions. You don't see lack. You see potential. You understand that life isn't just happening to you. It's responding to the level of your thoughts. And if you're stuck in cycles of lack, stuck in fear, stuck in small thinking, stuck in wishing instead of working, it's not always your environment that's the problem. Sometimes it's your mentality. Let me tell you something. Poverty is not just a condition, it's a mindset. It makes you suspicious of wealth, critical of success, afraid of growth, and addicted to comfort. Poverty will tell you just enough is enough. It'll tell you that dream is too big. It'll whisper you're not ready, even when God is opening doors. But when your mind is renewed, when your thinking is elevated, you'll understand that you were never created to live on leftovers. You were designed to create, to multiply, to build, to bless, and to influence. You don't need more money, you need more vision. And hear me, vision doesn't cost anything. A wealthy mind will take what others throw away and build an empire with it. A wealthy mind will see a barren land and imagine a harvest. A wealthy mind will hear a no and turn it into a strategy. And a wealthy mind doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It creates them. People often ask, how do I get out of this place I'm in? And I tell them, you don't move your life until you move your mind. Because you can take a poor mindset into a wealthy environment and it will still produce poverty. But take a wealthy mindset into a poor environment and it will find a way to rise. Why? Because it's not the place that determines prosperity. It's the person. It's the way they think. It's how they handle adversity. It's how they treat time. It's how they value knowledge. It's how they respond to failure. Millionaire minds don't run from problems. They solve them. They don't waste time complaining. They look for opportunity. Let me talk to somebody who's been frustrated because you're gifted, but you're not seeing fruit. Let me speak to the one who has dreams but keeps hitting walls. I came to tell you that this next level you're praying for will not be accessed with old thoughts. You can't carry the thinking from your yesterday into your tomorrow. You need a mental renovation, a transformation from the inside out. You need to challenge every limiting belief that told you wealth is for someone else. You need to uproot every lie that said you have to struggle all your life. You need to break every mental chain that's been passed down through generations. Do you know why some people can win the lottery and still lose it all within a few years? It's not because they didn't get money. It's because money didn't change their mindset. It just magnified it. If you're not mentally ready for abundance, it will overwhelm you. It will expose every area where you lack discipline. That's why the foundation of true wealth is not income, it's character, it's wisdom, it's integrity, it's knowing how to manage what you have when nobody's watching. Let me ask you, what are you doing with the little you've got? Because some of us are praying for overflow when we're mismanaging the trickle. Some of us are asking for more, but we don't have a system to steward it. And God is not a waster. He doesn't pour oil into broken vessels. So if you want more, fix your structure. If you want increase, build capacity. If you want elevation, develop the mind to sustain it. Millionaire thinking is not flashy. It's foundational. It's not about showing off. It's about building up. It's about learning delayed gratification. It's about investing when others are spending. It's about studying when others are scrolling. It's about saying no to quick pleasure for the sake of long-term purpose. Because millionaire thinkers don't just want money, they want legacy. They don't just want to consume, they want to contribute. They're not chasing applause, they're chasing impact. And hear me, this is not just about becoming rich for you. This is about breaking generational cycles. This is about changing the story for your children. This is about being the one in your family who shifted the trajectory. This is about thinking so differently that your bloodline has no choice but to rise, that your ceiling becomes their floor, that your sacrifice becomes their strategy, that your decision to change your mindset becomes the blessing that reaches 1,000 generations. And you may say, but I've never seen it done. No one around me thinks like this. It's okay. Be the first. Be the blueprint. Be the example. Don't wait for permission. Take responsibility. Because wealth doesn't wait. Because wealth doesn't wait. Destiny doesn't beg. Purpose doesn't pause. And life is too short to think small. So I challenge you today. Not to ask for more, but to become more. Not to chase money, but to chase mastery. Not to run after riches, but to rise in responsibility. Think like the person you want to become. Live like the future you is already watching. Make decisions not based on where you are, but based on where you're going. And watch how the world begins to shift to match the frequency of your thoughts. Because when you think different, you live different. When you believe different, you build different. And when your mind is transformed, everything around you must eventually follow. Wealth begins in the mind. That's where it starts. That's where it grows. And that's where it's sustained. Now go renew your mind, and the wealth will find you. Let me speak this into your life today. What limits you is not the weight of the mountain, but the weakness of your belief. It's not what's happening to you that defines your future. It's what's happening inside of you. To what's happening inside of you. And if you keep seeing life through the lens of limitation, you will never walk in the power of possibility. You can't build wealth, walk in purpose, or step into destiny with a restricted mindset. The greatest prison is not made of bars and walls. It's made of thoughts that tell you you can't. It's made of patterns that whisper you're not enough, lies that tell you you'll never make it, and fears that shout, oh, don't even try. But I came to declare today, your life is too big for small thinking. Your purpose is too great for limited vision. Your potential is too vast to be trapped by the failures of your past. You were created with possibility in your DNA. You were born to believe. You were shaped to stretch, to reach, to dream, to move mountains. Not just to climb them. Well, just to climb them. But if you let fear take the wheel, if you let limitation define your story, you'll never tap into the treasure God buried inside of you. Some people see a wall and stop. But others see a wall and ask, how do I climb it? How do I break it down? How do I go around it? Or better yet, how do I turn it into a doorway? That's the difference between a mind stuck in limitation and a mind lit up by possibility. One sees trouble and retreats. The other sees trouble and trains. One says it's too hard. The other says it's worth it. Let me talk to someone who's been told what they can't do. Someone who's been counted out, laughed at, overlooked. I want to tell you that rejection is not your reflection. It's redirection. And every no you heard in your life wasn't the end of your story. It was a setup for the right yes. But you won't see that if you don't believe in possibility. You'll stay bitter when you were called to get better. You'll stay stuck when you were built to soar. The difference between those who rise and those who ride is not always talent. It's not always intelligence. It's not even luck. It's perspective. It's the belief that something greater is always possible. It's the refusal to give up in the face of defeat. It's the audacity to keep showing up after the door has slammed in your face. You see, life will always give you reasons to quit. Circumstances will test you. People will doubt you. You'll make mistakes, sometimes big ones. You'll face seasons where everything seems to fall apart. But the people who walk in abundance, the people who build generational wealth, the people who live fulfilled, they don't avoid struggle. They transform it. They turn pain into power, setbacks into setups, losses into lessons. You've got to understand that your obstacle is your opportunity in disguise. If everything were easy, you'd never grow. If everything came quickly, you'd never learn discipline. If everyone believed in you, you'd never have to believe in yourself. It's the hardship that shapes you. It's the battle that builds you. And if you start looking at your life through the lens of what's possible instead of what's missing, you'll stop feeling like a victim and start realizing you're a vessel of victory. Thinkers of wealth, not just those with money, but those who live with vision. They don't ask, oh, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this preparing me for? They don't complain when it gets hard. They get creative. They don't collapse under pressure. They rise under purpose. Because when your mind is anchored in belief, life doesn't break you. It builds you. Now hear me. Believing in possibility doesn't mean being naive. It doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. No, believing in possibility means knowing that reality is not the end of the story. It means accepting where you are without surrendering to it. It means saying, yes, I see the problem, but I also see the promise. It means refusing to let your environment define your expectation. We've been trained to limit our dreams to what we can currently see. We've been conditioned to fit into boxes, to think small, to play it safe. But let me tell you something. Nothing safe ever shook the world. Nothing small ever created legacy. If you want to walk in possibility, you've got to be willing to step into the unknown. You've got to be bold enough to walk by faith, even when the facts say turn back. That business idea? It's possible. That vision for your family? It's possible. That dream to get out of debt? It's possible. That ministry, that invention, that book inside of you, it's all possible. But possibility requires participation. You don't just sit back and wait for it. You build. You move. You trust. You endure. Because belief is not just what you think. It's what you do with what you think. Some of you are living beneath your purpose because you've allowed temporary setbacks to set permanent ceilings. You built your whole life around what went wrong. But I dare you to shift today. I dare you to reframe the narrative. Don't let the broken pieces keep you from building again. Don't let one chapter make you close the book. There's still more. There's still better. There's still greater. What you believe about yourself will determine what you reach for. If you believe you're not enough, you'll never step into more. But if you dare to believe that there's greatness within you, you'll start making decisions like someone with a future. You'll stop settling for survival and start strategizing for success. You'll stop reacting and start responding. You'll stop shrinking to fit people's comfort and start rising to fulfill your calling. Possibility doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from having the courage to ask bigger questions. Possibility flows when you say, well, what if this works? Instead of a what if I fail? Instead of a what if I fail? It grows when you believe you're capable, not because of your resume, but because of your resilience. It multiplies when you refuse to let fear dictate your future. So many people die full of ideas they never tried, books they never wrote, dreams they never chased. Not because they lacked ability, but because they were paralyzed by limitation. They waited for the right moment, the perfect conditions, the approval of others, and the moment never came. But possibility doesn't wait for perfection. It shows up when you do. It moves when you move. And so today I challenge you. Stretch your belief. Dream again. Try again. Build again. Forgive yourself. Let go of the failure. Silence the inner critic. Believe that your best days are ahead, not behind. Done behind. Believe that you are not too late, not too broken, not too behind to step into what's possible. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to believe enough to begin. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start small if you must, but start. Ah. And as you move, you'll see that doors open for minds that are open, that miracles find hearts that are willing, that abundance flows where belief grows. You were never called to live in fear. You were never called to be average. You were never designed to be bound by what you see. You were made to believe. You were made to move. You were made for more. And when you start living from possibility, not limitation, the world can't help but make room for the unstoppable force of your faith. Let me tell you something that might just shake the very foundation of how you've been living. You will never build lasting success if you are led by your feelings. You can't conquer the mountain if your emotions are steering the climb. You can't create wealth, legacy, or impact if you only show up when you feel like it. Feelings are fleeting, emotions are temporary, but discipline is what carries you when the fire goes out, when the applause stops, when the motivation fades. Discipline is the difference between those who dream and those who build. Everybody feels excited in the beginning. Everybody's passionate on day one. Everybody's full of vision when the idea is fresh and the room is clapping. But where are you on day 50? Where are you when nobody's watching? Look. Where are you when the results are slow, when the crowd is gone, when it's just you and the grind? Let me make it plain. Emotion will get you started, but only discipline will finish the job. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline doesn't need permission. Discipline gets up when the alarm goes off, even when your body is begging for 5 more minutes. Discipline shows up to the meeting, to the keyboard, to the prayer closet, to the gym, to the books, to the dream, because it's not based on feeling, it's based on decision. You see, millionaires, not just in money, but in thinking, in purpose and impact, they don't wait to feel like doing what needs to be done. They've trained themselves to obey strategy over emotion. They've trained their minds to rise above moods. They've built lives that are not driven by how they feel in a moment, but by what they're committed to for a lifetime. Because here's the truth. Your emotions are loud, but they're not always right. Your emotions will tell you to quit when the breakthrough is around the corner. Your emotions will scream that you're tired when you're really just undisciplined. Your emotions will have you chasing comfort when your destiny demands discomfort. And if you don't learn to quiet the noise of your emotions, you'll forfeit your future to feelings that were never meant to lead you. Ooh. Some of us are waiting to feel inspired before we act. But what if I told you that inspiration is not what you wait for? It's what you create through consistency. What if I told you that the power is not in the moment of emotion, but in the muscle of discipline? Now, what God wants to give you won't be handed to the emotional version of you. It'll be entrusted to the version of you that can be trusted to move without needing to be moved. Let me tell you, greatness doesn't rise in convenience. It rises in consistency. And consistency is born in discipline. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel focused. You won't always feel like it's working. But discipline says, keep going anyway. Discipline says, trust the process when you can't see the result. Discipline says, your feelings are not the driver. Your purpose is. So many of us have dreams that die not because we lack the gift, but because we lack the grit. We lack the discipline to press through the emotional storms. We let a bad mood ruin a good opportunity. We let a moment of fear silence a lifetime of purpose. And we called it a being real or being honest with ourselves. But the truth is, we were just letting our emotions run the show. There are things God wants to do in your life, but He can't build on unstable soil. He can't pour next-level blessings into a life that's ruled by daily moods. He can't entrust expansion to someone who only shows up when they feel good. He's looking for stability. He's looking for discipline. He's looking for the person who says, even when I don't feel it, I'll still move. Even when I'm tired, I'll still trust. Even when I'm discouraged, I'll still build. Because the reward doesn't go to the most emotional. It goes to the most committed. The crown doesn't go to the person who had the strongest feeling. It goes to the one who made the hardest. Let me speak into your spirit today. You keep asking for more, but have you mastered what you already have? You keep praying for increase, but have you honored what's in your hand right now? It's in your hand right now? Because the truth is this. What you do with a little is the prophecy of what you'll do with much. And if you are sloppy with the small, ungrateful for the ordinary, careless with the current, then heaven has no reason to release what's next. Everybody wants elevation, but few want the process. Everybody wants abundance, but few respect beginnings. We want miracles, but we won't manage. We want overflow, but we waste what trickles. We cry for doors to open, but we haven't swept the porch. We already live on. What if I told you that the next level is not delayed by your enemies, not blocked by your circumstances, but by your inability to handle what's already in front of you? You've been asking for more money, but how are you treating the few dollars you get? Are you sowing? Are you saving? Are you planning? Or are you spending like there's no tomorrow and calling it a test? You want a bigger platform, but are you showing up with excellence on the small stage you're on now? Are you consistent? Are you dependable when nobody is clapping? You want a relationship that's thriving, but are you stewarding your own heart with discipline and integrity before someone else's comes into your life? See, what most people overlook is that increase doesn't start with having more. It starts with being more. You've got to be more intentional. You've got to be more consistent. Because the little things are never really little. They are training ground. They are test sites. They are preparation disguised as obscurity. And how you respond in that season sets the trajectory for everything that comes after. You want the promise, but can you carry the process? You want the throne, but can you be trusted in the field? You want visibility, but have you mastered discipline in the dark? God is watching how you handle what doesn't look like much. Doesn't look like much. Because if you despise the day of small beginnings, you'll never grow into your divine expansion. Faithfulness isn't about how loud you are when people are looking. It's about how consistent you are when nobody sees. Can you keep writing even when no one is reading? Can you keep building even when nobody is helping? Can you keep showing up when the room is empty? When the bank account is low? When the encouragement is silent? Because that is where destiny is carved. That is where greatness is born, not in the big moment, but in the 1,000 unseen decisions when you choose faith over frustration. Don't underestimate the power of small. David only had 5 stones. The widow only had a little oleo. The boy only had a few loaves and fish. But when faithfulness meets obedience, the little becomes more than enough. The little becomes overflow. The little becomes legacy. But you've got to stop treating your just this like it's nothing. Stop saying it's only this much time, only this much experience, only this kind of opportunity. There's nothing only about what God puts in your hand. It's always exactly what you need to get started. What if the thing you're waiting on is waiting on you to treat the present moment like it matters? What if God is watching how you treat the broom before he hands you the blueprint? What if the door you want won't open until you fix your attitude in the hallway you're already standing in? We talk so much about breakthrough and harvest and blessing, and yes, those things are real, but they are not random. They are not magic. They are not instant. They are cultivated by the hands of those who learned how to be excellent when it didn't seem to matter, who chose integrity when there was no reward, who showed up early, stayed late, learned deeply, gave generously, not because it was glamorous, but because it was right. Being faithful with the little means you don't need a crowd to be motivated. You don't need applause to show up strong. You don't need proof to be passionate. You serve like it's a palace even when it's a parking lot. It's a parking lot. You lead like it's a global movement even when it's just 2 people in a folding chair. Oh, you teach like it's a stadium even if it's just your child sitting on the couch. Because you know that if you treat it like it matters, God will multiply it like it's a miracle. Stop waiting for the big break to start acting like you belong. Stop waiting for the big moment to start giving your best. Excellence isn't something you turn on when it's convenient. It's something you become by practicing it in the unnoticed corners of life. That's where credibility is earned. That's where capacity is stretched. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to stay committed when the fruit hasn't shown up yet. It's hard to pour out when nobody's pouring back into you. But if you keep being faithful, faithful when it's boring, faithful when it's lonely, faithful when it's messy, there's a reward coming, not just in what you'll receive, but in who you become. Faithfulness transforms you. It toughens your skin and softens your heart. It makes you wise. It makes you ready, because more doesn't just add to your life. It amplifies who you are, and if you haven't developed stewardship with the little, you'll be crushed by the weight of the blessing you're asking for. That's why some of us haven't stepped into the promise yet. Not because God is punishing you, but because He's protecting you. He knows that success without maturity is sabotage. He knows that access without alignment is dangerous. So He holds back the next door until you master this one. And if you can learn to love the season you're in, if you can work it like it's worth $1 million, even when it looks like pennies, that's when the promotion comes. So don't be discouraged by the size of your start. Don't be distracted by the slowness of your progress. Don't be deceived by the smallness of your current influence. This is your training ground. This is your testing season. This is where trust is built. This is where heaven is watching. And I promise you this, what you water will grow. What you respect will expand. What you honor will return. And if you stay faithful with a little, one day you'll look back and realize it was never little at all. It was the seed of something unstoppable. So go ahead and sweep the floor like it's sacred. Write the idea down like it's history in the making. Shake the hand like it's your destiny in disguise. Give your best even if it feels unnoticed. Yeah, because the most powerful people in the world didn't wait until they had more. They started where they were, with what they had, and they gave it everything. That's what faithfulness looks like. That's what prepares you for more. That's what multiplies your impact. And that's what proves you're ready for the next level. Not by what you say, but by how you steward what's already in your hands. Comes a time when you must decide that just getting by is no longer good enough. That waking up only to chase another paycheck, to tread the waters of debt, to run from one emergency to the next is not the life you were born to live. There comes a moment when something inside of you has to rise up and say, I was not created merely to survive. I was created to build, to expand, to influence, to reign. But as long as your thoughts are shackled to survival, your life will never rise into purpose. You can't build anything lasting if all your mind is doing is calculating how to make it to Friday. If all your energy is spent managing chaos, there will never be any left for creating legacy. And let me tell you, legacy doesn't grow out of panic. Destiny doesn't flourish in fear. The abundant life doesn't unfold in the mindset of it just enough. If you want to step into the fullness of what you were born for, your vision has to outgrow your crisis. Your eyes must lift above the storm. Because survival will train you to shrink, to hide, to settle, to hoard. But purpose demands that you stretch, that you rise, that you believe, that you give. So many of us are stuck in cycles, not because we lack talent or calling, but because we have become so consumed with surviving that we've stopped imagining what it means to thrive. You're not just tired. You're drained by a system that taught you to only think about what you need right now, instead of what you are meant to build for tomorrow. Somewhere along the way, we were told that playing small is safe. That thinking about legacy is a luxury. That dreaming beyond the bills is irresponsible. But I came to break that lie today. You are not irresponsible for dreaming. You are responsible for it. You are accountable for what God put in you. You are accountable for the land He gave you to tend. And you cannot manage a kingdom with a survival mentality. You were never meant to live beneath the weight of anxiety every day. You were not called to wake up every morning worrying about whether you'll have enough, whether you'll make it through the month, whether it's all going to fall apart. That is not the life your Creator intended for you. But you've got to make a shift, a radical shift in how you think. A holy rebellion against the lie that surviving is the best you can do. Because hear me, survival is not your home. It was a season, maybe. It was a chapter. Yes. But it's not your address. Don't you dare pitch a tent in that mindset. Don't you dare call normal what was meant to be temporary. Don't you dare let your vision die because your environment said that this is all there is. God didn't put all that potential in you just so you could barely scrape by. He didn't give you gifts, insight, creativity, influence just so you could work, pay bills, and die. You were made to leave something behind. You were made to plant something that outlives you. You were made to speak something that echoes for generations. You were made to build something that shakes the future. But you'll never do that if your mind never leaves survival mode. Because survival shrinks your choices. It tightens your world. It makes you reactive instead of proactive. And soon you're not thinking about purpose or strategy. You're just thinking about putting out fires. You can't build anything beautiful when you're always in emergency mode. You can't steward vision when your mental real estate is occupied by stress. You can't create structure when all you've known is struggle. And so the first battle to break is not in your circumstances, it's in your mind. Your thoughts have to rise. Your perspective has to elevate. You've got to lift your head up and say, I am not what I went through. I am not the lack I experienced. I'm not the environment I survived. I'm not limited to what I've seen. You were born to think differently, to break the cycles, to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit, to open doors that your children and your children's children can walk through. But if all you ever do is fight to make it to the next month, you'll never get to the place where you're building the next century. You've got to see further. You've got to think bigger. You've got to imagine more. Stop asking, can I afford this today? And start asking, what does this seed produce tomorrow? Stop saying, what's the cheapest way out? And start saying, what's the wisest path forward? Because wisdom thinks in decades, not days, not days. Builders don't just think about themselves. They think about legacy. Some of us are still in survival mode because that's all we've ever known. We grew up hearing the language of lack. We learned how to hustle, but not how to build. We learned how to react, but not how to plan. But just because that's what you inherited doesn't mean that's where it ends. You can be the first to break the mold. You can be the one who shifts the atmosphere. You can be the one who teaches your children how to manage abundance instead of survive chaos. But you've got to choose it. You've got to fight for it. Quiet. You've got to protect that vision from the small-mindedness that surrounds you. There will always be people who want you to stay at their level. People who get uncomfortable when you talk about growth, about expansion, about elevation. But you weren't born to make them comfortable. You were born to make a difference. And let me tell you, the first sign that you're breaking out of survival is when you stop asking, what can I get? And you start asking, what can I give? When you stop thinking, how do I keep myself afloat? And you start thinking, how do I build something that helps others? Because real wealth, real purpose isn't just about accumulation. It's about multiplication. It's about pouring out what you've been given so that it lives on in others. You won't get there overnight. A mindset doesn't change in a day, but every time you choose vision over panic, strategy over impulse, faith over fear, you're shifting. Every time you say no to short-term comfort in favor of long-term growth, you're rising. Every time you resist the urge to shrink and choose to expand, you are stepping out of survival and into purpose. So today I'm challenging you. Look at your life, not just with the eyes of someone trying to make it, but with the eyes of someone called to build. Ask yourself, what am I creating? Not just, what am I enduring? Ask yourself, what will outlive me? Not just, what am I trying to fix this week? Because you weren't born to just pay bills. You weren't born to just tread water. You weren't born to just tread water. You weren't born to just hustle and grind until your soul is worn down. You were born to breathe vision into the earth. You were born to speak things that be not as though they were. You were born to plant vineyards you might never see grow, but your grandchildren will thank you for them. It's time to lift your vision. It's time to let your mind breathe. It's time to step out of survival and step into legacy. There is a moment in every person's life when they must confront the truth that the life they are living is a direct reflection of the thoughts they are thinking. The terrain you walk in is shaped by the terrain you carry in your mind. You can't walk into new territory with the same old mindset. You cannot occupy more if your mind is still confined to less. You cannot live in promise with a wilderness mentality. You must shift your thoughts if you want to shift your territory. So many are praying for breakthrough, but haven't changed the blueprint of their belief. Crying for change, but still clinging to chains in their thinking. You can't move forward while thinking backwards. You can't step into freedom while your thoughts are still tied to captivity. The body may be out, but the mind is still trapped. The job might be new, the house might be different, the season might have shifted, but if the mind hasn't, it will all collapse back into the old pattern. The truth is this: transformation begins on the inside. You've been asking God to change your situation, but He's waiting on you to change your perspective. You're asking Him to expand your borders, but you've yet to expand your beliefs. Because no matter how much potential surrounds you, nothing changes until your thoughts do. As a person thinks, so are they. That is not a poetic phrase, it is a spiritual law. You can't think in fear and walk in faith. You can't dwell in doubt and expect to build in boldness. You can't stay shackled in scarcity and expect to handle abundance. If your thoughts don't rise, your life never will. And that's why the enemy doesn't fight you just with circumstances. He fights you in your mind. Because if he can lock down your thoughts, he can lock down your future. There are people who have opportunities in front of them, but are blind to them because their mind is trained to expect struggle. There are people who live in abundance but still carry a poverty mindset, always afraid it will disappear, always hoarding, never trusting, never resting. There are people who are surrounded by love but still feel unworthy because somewhere deep inside they never shifted the narrative they've believed about themselves. You must shift the narrative. You must interrupt the cycle. You must tear down the strongholds in your thinking that tell you, this is all there is, or you'll never be more than this. You'll keep circling the same desert. You'll keep repeating the same patterns. You'll keep wondering why nothing feels new, even when everything around you has changed. The problem isn't the land. The problem is the lens. How are you seeing yourself? How are you seeing God? How are you seeing the world? Because if your vision is clouded by old wounds, old words, old weights, then even the promised land will look like a threat to you. God could open the door, but you'll talk yourself out of walking through it. You could bring the opportunity, but you'll convince yourself you're not ready. He could send the right people, but you'll sabotage the connection because your mind is still echoing past rejection. Your thoughts can either be a bridge or a barrier, and that bridge has to be built by you. One thought at a time, one decision at a time, one battle at a time. You don't just wake up one day and suddenly walk in purpose. You have to train your mind to believe it, to expect it, to see it. You have to renew your mind every day because the default thinking of this world is fear. The current is negativity. The pull is towards self-doubt. So if you don't fight to shift your thoughts, your mind will slide back into limitation by default. You have to declare, I will not think like I used to think. I will not speak defeat when God has called me to victory. I will not let my history dictate my identity. I will not let the echo of pain write the script of my future. I am shifting. I am renewing. I am transforming. Because every new level you step into requires a new mindset. You cannot carry yesterday's thought patterns into tomorrow's territory. The weight will crush the future before it even begins. You have to travel light. You have to release the lies. You have to unlearn what fear taught you. You have to divorce the identity that was formed in trauma. You have to speak truth to the thoughts that whisper, or not enough. You are enough, not because of your perfection, but because of his purpose. You are capable, not because it's easy, but because you're empowered. You are worthy, not because you earned it, but because he called you. But you have to let those truths take root in your mind. You can't just hear them once and expect them to change you. You've got to rehearse them. You've got to meditate on them. You've got to speak them until your old beliefs tremble under the sound of truth. When you start shifting your thoughts, don't be surprised if your territory starts to shift too. Things will fall off. People will fall away. Doors will close and others will open because your environment will begin to reflect your inner alignment. What you tolerate mentally, you attract physically. What you nurture inwardly, you manifest outwardly. If you think small, you'll live small. If you think like a victim, you'll move like one. If you expect loss, you'll sabotage gain. But if you start to think like a builder, you'll start building. If you think like an owner, you'll start owning. If you think like someone sent with a purpose, you'll walk like it, talk like it, and act like it. And suddenly your steps are no longer random. They are ordered. Don't let another year go by with the same mindset. Don't let the enemy lull you into believing that nothing can change. Don't sit back and wait for your life to shift. Make the shift within yourself first. The moment you shift your thoughts, you are shifting the blueprint of your life. You were not created to be stuck. You were not designed for cycles of fear, failure, and frustration. You were created to move from glory to glory, strength to strength, faith to faith, to faith to faith. But that movement begins not with your feet, but with your mind. It begins with what you believe is possible, what you believe you're worth, what you believe God can do through you. So I challenge you today, go to war with every lie you've ever believed. Confront every thought that says, this is all I'll ever be. Catch those thoughts, correct those thoughts, and replace them with truth. Declare over yourself daily, I am not stuck. I am not broken. I am not finished. I am rising. I am rising. I am growing. I am expanding. Because when your thoughts rise, your territory responds. When your mind shifts, your future aligns. When your thinking transforms, your life becomes unrecognizable. Not because everything around you changed first, but because everything within you did. So don't wait for the outside to shift. Let the shift begin in you. And when it does, watch the doors swing open. Watch the opportunities arise. Watch the land you once feared to enter. Now stretch wide and welcome. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Now that you've heard this truth, you can't unhear. Now that the mirror has been held before you, you can't pretend you didn't see. Yet the time for excuses is over. The season of delay is done. You don't need more confirmation. You don't need another sign. What you need is to rise up and act on what you already know deep down in your spirit. That you are not called to stay where you are. You are not assigned to stagnation. You are not created for limitation. You are an answer to a problem. You are a builder of futures. You are the seed of transformation planted in a generation that desperately needs what's inside you. And if you're waiting for your environment to shift before you believe it, you'll wait your whole life. But if you will dare to shift your thoughts, even in the middle of uncertainty, you'll begin to walk in authority that makes room for you, even in dry places. You'll begin to see favor open doors you couldn't knock down. You'll begin to see peace show up in places that used to provoke panic. Because the shift starts with you. Yes, I know it's hard. I know it's easier to cling to familiar pain than to walk into unknown promise. I know the weight of old wounds is heavy, and sometimes it feels safer to sit in dysfunction than to rise into destiny. Well, you rise into destiny. But if you sit there too long, what was once a season becomes a sentence. You were not meant to serve a life sentence in small thinking. You were not meant to remain imprisoned in fear. You were meant to rise. And rising begins with what you believe, not just on Sunday morning. Not just when the music is playing, but in the quiet, in the pressure, in the solitude of your own thoughts, when nobody else sees, when nobody else knows. That's when the shift must happen. That's when you take hold of every thought and bring it into alignment with the truth. That's when you stop rehearsing the lie and start declaring the promise. You've been circling that mountain long enough. You've been dancing around doubt, flirting with fear, settling for less. Long enough. It's time to move. Not because everything's ready, but because you are. You're ready to think different. You're ready to speak different. You're ready to believe different. You're ready to act different. And when you do, don't be surprised when everything around you starts to respond, because the atmosphere around you will eventually submit to the authority within you. But the authority only grows when you begin to think like the person God designed you to be. When you stop borrowing identity from past pain and start walking boldly in purpose. When you decide that you're not going to build your future on fear. You're not going to shape your life around scarcity. You're not going to carry dead things into a living destiny. You are shifting, not just for you, but for everyone connected to you. You are shifting for your children. You are shifting for your community. You are shifting for generations you will never meet. You are shifting because your obedience today will echo in someone else's victory tomorrow. You are shifting because you were chosen, not to merely exist, but to occupy. So step forward, not with hesitation, but with conviction. Let the shift be permanent. Let the shift be radical. Let the shift be complete. Walk into new thoughts, new language, new habits, new patterns, and as you do, prepare for new territory. Because when your mind shifts, everything changes. And this time, it's your turn. This time, you're not turning back. This time, you're crossing over. This time, you're not just dreaming about it, you're walking in it. Now go and let the shift begin.